Your bank account looks fine right now. Your bank account looks fine right now. The number is there. Maybe it even went up a little this month. You're not behind on anything. You're not in debt. You're doing the responsible thing. And yet, somewhere between your savings account and your actual future, something is quietly disappearing. Not in a crash, not in a headline, not in a way that triggers any alarm on your phone. Just gone. Slowly, silently, in a way that was designed to be invisible. Here's the question nobody is asking out loud. What if the system that was supposed to protect your money was never actually built for that purpose? What if the safety you feel right now is the most expensive feeling you've ever had? In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the mechanism behind why your money is losing its power, not because of anything you did wrong, but because of a decision made in Tokyo 30 years ago that is now coming undone. And I'm going to show you what the people who already know this are doing about it. Let's start with something you already feel but can't quite explain. Your salary is roughly the same as last year. Maybe it went up a little. Your bills are paid, your 401k is green, but somehow every month there's less room, less margin, less of that feeling that you're actually getting ahead. You're not imagining it. The average American household is spending $11,000 more per year today than they were in 2019 on the exact same lifestyle, same groceries, same gas, same rent. $11,000 more. That's not inflation in the abstract. That's a car payment you didn't agree to every single year, coming out of the money you thought was safe. And here's the part that should genuinely bother you. The official inflation number, the one the government reports, the one your financial advisor references, is calculated using a formula that was quietly revised in the 1990s specifically to produce a lower result. The pre-1990 methodology would show inflation running significantly higher than what gets reported today. You are not bad at math. The math was changed. And while you've been focused on that official number, watching the Fed, watching interest rates, watching Jerome Powell's press conferences like they contain the secrets of the universe, the actual force that has been holding your cost of living down for 30 years is something most Americans have never heard of. And right now, that force is reversing. I need to tell you about Japan. Not just because the story is fascinating, but because what happened there is the reason your mortgage rate, your credit card interest, and your retirement account have all been artificially held in place for the last 3 decades. Here's the short version. In 1992, Japan's economy collapsed. Real estate values disintegrated, the stock market cratered, and Japan's central bank did what central banks do. They slashed interest rates to zero, then below zero. Then they started physically controlling how much return their government bonds could offer, forcing those returns to stay near zero no matter what. Now here's where your life enters the equation. Imagine you're managing $1 billion in Tokyo. Your own country's bonds are offering you nothing, literally zero. You have 2 options: sit there and earn nothing, or go find returns somewhere else on the planet. They went shopping, and America was the store. What followed was one of the largest capital flows in financial history. Japanese institutions, pension funds, insurance firms, investment firms poured trillions of dollars into American assets: U.S. government bonds, American mortgages, U.S. stocks. By late 2024, Japan held $1.2 trillion in U.S. Treasury bonds alone. They became the single largest foreign holder of American government debt. Not because they loved America, not because of some diplomatic agreement, but because the math was irresistible. And that math, the math that has been quietly subsidizing your interest rates for 30 years, is changing. Let me introduce you to Bob. Bob is a large Japanese institutional investor. Bob is not a villain. Bob is just doing math. Bob walks into the Japanese bond market and borrows yen at essentially zero cost. He converts those yen into US dollars. He parks them in US government bonds paying 4 or 5%. After covering his costs, he pockets the difference. This is called the yen carry trade. In plain English, borrow cheap in Japan, invest expensive in America, and keep the gap. Now multiply Bob by every major financial institution in Japan. Then add the global hedge funds, the European pension funds, the sovereign wealth funds from Singapore to Norway, who figured out the same trade. Morgan Stanley estimated roughly $500 billion in active carry trade positions. Other analysts put the real numbers significantly higher. For 30 years, this river of cheap Japanese money has been flowing into American assets. Every time you heard a headline about easy financial conditions or plenty of liquidity, part of that story was trillions in Japanese capital keeping American interest rates artificially low. Your mortgage rate, your car loan, your credit card APR, your 401k returns, all of it was touched by a decision made in Tokyo. And here's what nobody told you. The entire structure balanced on one assumption: Japanese interest rates would stay at zero forever. In 2024, they didn't. In March 2024, the Bank of Japan raised interest rates for the first time in 17 years. Then they raised again and again. By late 2024, Japanese rates reached 0.75%, and the return on Japan's 10-year government bond climbed past 2% for the first time in over 2 decades. Now, 0.75% still sounds like nothing, but remember, the entire global financial system was built on the assumption that this number would stay at zero. When you build a skyscraper on a foundation you assume will never move, you don't need an earthquake to cause damage, you just need the foundation to shift 3 inches. The reaction was immediate. The S&P 500 dropped 6% in days. Japan's main stock index had its worst single trading session since 1987. The message from the market was deafening. This changes everything. Why? Because Bob's trade stopped working. Borrowing in yen suddenly costs real money. Protecting against currency swings on all those overseas investments gets dramatically expensive. The free lunch, the one that has been subsidizing American interest rates for 30 years, disappeared overnight. And when the math stops working, the behavior changes. Money that spent 3 decades flowing out of Japan is starting to flow back in. Japanese institutions were buying $10 to $15 billion in U.S. government bonds per month in early 2024. By the end of the year, that number was down to $3 to $5 billion. The most reliable foreign buyer of American debt is stepping back, and America needs to sell more debt than ever before. Here's something most financial media will never say out loud. Almost everyone is watching the wrong thing. The entire financial media ecosystem spends enormous energy analyzing every word Jerome Powell says, as if the Fed controls the interest rates that actually affect your life. It doesn't. The Fed controls the overnight rate, the rate banks charge each other for very short-term loans. The rate on your 30-year mortgage, that's tied to the 10-year Treasury bond. The rate on your car loan, corporate borrowing costs, long-term debt, those are determined by who is buying U.S. government bonds and how much new debt is flooding the market. And here's the insight almost nobody is connecting. The Fed can cut rates aggressively, and your mortgage rate can stay stubbornly high if the buyers of long-term debt are stepping back at the same time. This isn't a theory, it's already happening. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater, the world's largest hedge fund, has been warning about exactly this. He calls it a debt death spiral. The government borrows money to pay interest on money it already owes. Each cycle makes it worse. He compared it to plaque building in arteries, silent, slow, until it isn't. Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, said recently that a crack in the bond market is going to happen. Not might happen, is going to happen. These are not fringe voices. These are the people running the institutions that manage your money, and they're telling you the foundation is shifting. The United States just crossed $36 trillion in national debt, adding roughly $1 trillion every 100 days. Interest payments alone are on track to exceed $1 trillion in 2026, nearly triple what they were 6 years ago. Someone has to buy all that debt. For 30 years, Japan was the anchor buyer. Now they're stepping back. And the dollar, the currency your entire financial life is denominated in, lost 39% of its value against gold in 2024 alone. Here's the insight that will change how you see your finances. Your retirement account might be growing, and you might still be getting poorer. Because a retirement account that shows 8% growth in a year where the dollar loses 10% of its purchasing power, that account lost 2% of its real value. Your app shows green,
your actual wealth went down. This isn't hypothetical. This is the mechanism that has been operating for years and now is accelerating. Dalio said it directly. Stop looking at the dollar amount in your accounts. Start asking what that money can actually buy. Because the savings you spent years building, measured in groceries, in rent, and healthcare, and the actual cost of your life, might be worth less than the number on your screen suggests. The force driving that gap wider is not Jerome Powell. It's a central bank in Tokyo that just changed direction for a generation. Most people won't connect these dots until the damage is already done. You just connected them. I want you to walk away with clarity. Not panic, not doom, not the urge to convert your savings into gold coins and bury them in the backyard. Clarity. Because the truth about every major financial shift in history is this: the people who got hurt weren't the ones who saw it coming and made the wrong call. They were the ones who never looked, who assumed that because things had always worked a certain way, they